Buckhouse, I should say. And I'm a brother-in-law to Lloyd, who all of you know very well. And I just wanted to say some, things about Lloyd as I knew him. And, well, for example, he knew where all the places were where you could get all the best buffets. He would tell us about where the best food was. He even took me to a poker room one time, and he said, here's a place where you can win, and I end up winning money, Shirley. So one time, I felt he was doing all this stuff for us, so I figured, gee, I got to get even with him. So I took him to Smith and Walensky's, which is a big restaurant here. And the food was amazing. The steaks were so big, they actually hung over your plate. And we had mashed potatoes and we had carrots, and for one serving, they could serve 4 people. And Lloyd finally sat, he looked at me, he said, Jerry, you did it. You finally beat me with all of the stuff that I knew for taking you for all the food. I've never seen so much food in all my life. Once we went on a family reunion to Myrtle Beach, and we had a great time. And Lloyd, he set up a golf outing for us. And he picked one of the best golf courses that you could ever play in the world. And it was amazing that he made Jeff can tell you, and also Jackie's ex-husband was also there. It was a great golf course. We had a great time. Then he found a restaurant where you could have all-you-could-eat crab legs. And oh my God, our niece, who is Jackie, she must have had about 12 of them. She just loved crab legs. So here Lloyd was away from Las Vegas, and he set this thing up in Myrtle Beach. And we were amazed that he could find the restaurant. He found the golf course. He found everything for us. So as we went on and I got to know Lloyd a lot better, he was just amazing where he could know what was going on. When Shirley and Lloyd first met, it reminds me of, my mom called us and said Shirley was having a tough time, so she decided to take her to Vegas. So she calls me from Vegas and she said, we met this wonderful man who's a limo driver, and he's taking us all around. And I'm thinking, my God, what is a limo driver supposed to do? He's supposed to take you. So the next thing I know, is Shirley calls me and says, I'm getting married. I'm going to be moving to Wisconsin. I'm going to be moving from Wisconsin to Las Vegas. And my mom says, she's so thrilled. And I said, oh boy, I got to meet this limo driver. So when I finally met Lloyd, he was a great man. He was amazing. I could talk to him about just about everything. We could talk baseball. He'd watch the basketball games. He'd like to gamble. He'd like to play Keno, and he liked to play all kinds of, and we used to love to go out with him and everything else. So I'm thinking now, in happiness, I want to just say that, we're living the dream, as the kids say it today. But Lloyd is in the dream. He's found that big casino in the sky. And Shirley, no more sore legs, no more catheters. He's enjoying himself. And he's found that big casino in the sky. Thank you.
Thank
you. We all have so many memories of Lloyd. I think Sharon mentioned this morning he was always so happy-go-lucky. And just look at these pictures. Every one of them has a wonderful smile. I met Lloyd. Jerry and I don't think we were engaged yet, and he was just still in the military. And he was home in Baden for Easter, this particular Easter. And that's the first time I had met him. And then Jerry and I were engaged and married later that year. So that had to be in 1960. We've had, I don't know how many times we've come to Vegas. When we were going south, we'd always stop to see Lloyd and Shirley coming and going. And always had a great time. And it was always something that we look forward to doing. I do remember, while before Lloyd met Shirley, Jerry and I took a trip to Yellowstone Park. And Lloyd and we all went out, we stayed overnight, and rented a little cabin there. And I remember Lloyd and I had a pretty good time that night. We were doing a lot of dancing and cha-cha-cha stuff, and I always teased him about the dancing. I think Jerry sat on the sideline with his arms. I do now. And then another special, several others, but remember when we went to Lake Mary Godan, we rented that huge cabin for you and Lloyd. Jerry and I had the motor home. We went fishing. Lloyd loved that. We had our little boat, and we all catch it. Well, I don't know if we caught very much. We all piled in that boat. And Lake Mary Godan's a very lovely lake and beautiful setting. And we stayed 2 or 3 days, I believe. That was when we were on a vacation at that time. And we've had many, many memories with Lloyd. And, of course, we're thinking of Clara and George today, and Norman. Lloyd lived, 27 years longer than Norman did. Norman was 53 when he passed away. So I too, I'm very relieved. I'm so glad Jerry got to come and spend time with Lloyd Shirley, because he needed to do that. And I too am thinking, thank God, there's no more doctor appointments, no more devices and apparatuses and EECP treatments and so on. And so the last 2 years with us watching Lloyd failing, it's been really difficult. So I am so comforted by the fact that he's no longer in pain and he's gone to a better place. We love him and we miss him. It's all the Buckhouse family. We just have Jerry left anymore. But he's a big part of my family. He knows that. So I think I'd like to read the peace prayer of St. Francis. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. O divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. And I just pray that God will keep Lloyd and Shirley and family in his tender, loving care. We miss you, Lloyd, and love you.
Well, I'm going to go back a few years. There was a job in West Yellowstone. My dad was a cook. And so it was Lloyd and myself. Norman wasn't born yet. And my mother. Anyway, my dad had a cooking job there, and we had a little cabin in right downtown West Yellowstone. Wasn't very big at that time. Norman wasn't born yet. He was born in 1940, so this had to be 1939, summer of 39. I was 4 years old. Lloyd was 5. He was the big brother, so I had to follow him
sometimes he'd lead me astray. And so we wandered around town, and it was cold. West Yellowstone's always a cold place. And we found this big old barn and went upstairs. And Lloyd had a match. I don't know where he got it, but he decided he's going to build a little fire to get warm. And of course, the barn got a lot of hay, so it was easy to start a fire. And it got a little bit too warm, so we decided to leave. We heard the next day that barn burned down. Then, after we left West Yellowstone, we moved to Butte. We spent a year in Butte. That's where Norman was born. And of course, Lloyd still was, he had the feeling of being, you know, happy-go-lucky, do whatever you want. So my mother would tie us to the clothesline pole with a ring on the rope so that we could go from one end of the clothesline to the other end. But the neighbor kid came over and untied us. And my mother found us at the police station sitting on the policeman's desk eating a candy bar. So, and then there's another story I want to say about, you know, Lloyd's been down in the dumps quite a bit. But I have to take credit for putting him in the dumps the very first time. We had an old 35 Dodge, and Lloyd had learned how to drive. We lived in Milltown, Montana, just outside of Missoula. And they had a community dump right along the riverbank. So my dad let Lloyd drive this old 35 Dodge van loaded with all the garbage. And he was happy to do that because every time he got a chance to drive, he was all for it. So we get to the dump and he backs up and I get out and I'm guiding him, telling him how far to go back, and of course, you know, just learning to drive, he lets the clutch out too fast, and the old van goes too far. And as he's going over the bank, I hollered at him, "That's far enough." And he ends up, the only thing that kept him from going in the river, he hit a tree. So he went down in the dumps, literally.
Yeah.
What else can I say? Oh, another, Lloyd was allergic to wild game. And we were out hunting, and he shot his first elk. And I said, "Well, I better clean it because you break out and you're allergic to the wild game." And he said, "No, I shot it, I'll clean it." Well, in about 15 minutes, his eyes started swelling up and his nose was running and water was coming out of his eyes. And I said, "Well, better let me finish it up." He said, "No, I shot it, I'll clean it." And by God, he did. He finished cleaning that elk. And, I guess that's about all the stories I have.
Didn't you have a fishing story on the Madison where he got lost and it took him hours to return to you and your dad?
Well, that's the time my dad was with us. One of the last times my dad went hunting. And I went to a place where I knew there was a lot of wild game. And I told Lloyd, I said, "You just follow this trail and it's broken up in a few places because they've logged and the logging had kind of cut up the trail. But I said, if you keep this ridge on the left in your sight all the time, then you'll be okay, and it'll come out on another logging road. And I'll meet you down at that logging road." So my dad and I, we had Jeep pickup then at that time, and we hunted a little bit, and then we went down to meet him at the end of the trail. Well, he didn't show up. And long story short, Lloyd ended up going all the way down another ridge and ends up, had the river between him and the highway, so he couldn't get to the highway, and we looked for him up there all day. It started getting dark, and I told my dad, I said, we better go back to town and say that we've got somebody missing. Well, we head down the road, and before we get to the bottom, well, this guy gets out and waves at us, and there's Lloyd, and had got a ride, and he was halfway up the road. He ended up walking about 20 miles that day. He had where he came out was 14 miles before he got to the road where we went up. And he had to walk down the railroad track because the river was between him and the railroad. The guy that picked him up was the sheriff, so he was in good hands.
I remember as a kid, we always came to Vegas in the summers, the long car ride. My dad really liked me a lot. And a couple times, when he moved here afterwards, after he moved from Missoula to Vegas, and we'd come down and visit him, and, he was, like you said, he knew where all the buffets were, he knew all the good routes to get around the traffic, and, and he really enjoyed his life here, and I was really thankful when he met Shirley, and I remember he was so happy, and he said that he was going to get married, and I was glad that he found someone that he could, spend his life with, and like you said, I'm glad that he's not in pain, and he's not, going to the doctor and having to deal with everything anymore, and I'm really thankful for Shirley and Jerry both for being there for him, and, taking care of him for as long as you did. I really appreciate that. I'm sorry that I couldn't come, but I know that you were with him, and, he knew that I was there, in his heart, and that's where he'll always live for us. Sorry, they're like waiting out there. Thank you. Yeah, they're waiting out there. Yeah, I think we're running them. So. All of us get high because I think it's